Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import-Export Hub channel, everybody. Bias Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes. Thanks for pushing the play button, by the way. And guys, without begging you to hit those small vanity buttons, allow me to start covering Azerbaijan's export dynamics for the 2019-2023 interval. More specifically, I will cover Azerbaijan's top 20 absolute positive and negative changes at heading level, so HS4, with 2023 as a reference year, while towards the end of the video I will cover its top 20 headings who had the smallest variability. Basically a ratio between the standard deviation and the mean of the exported values, calculated considering these 5 years, a rough estimate, if you want, of Azerbaijan's competitive advantage. So first things first, guys, the largest absolute positive figures registered in 2023 were recorded by heading 2716. So electrical energy, who saw an increase of almost $281 million. It was followed by motor cars, so heading 8703, who had an absolute positive change of some $127 million, give or take, while polymers of propylene, a byproduct of the petrochemical sector, which is very important for Azerbaijan, by the way, is ending this podium with an absolute positive change of $62 million, coupled with a 22.6% almost compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years. And I don't know, the list goes on with petroleum oils, for example, stranded wires follows, then immediately after we have a fruit cluster, which is also very important for Azerbaijan. And this recorded an expansion of some $23 million, which is coupled with an impressive compound annual growth rate around 14%, which is pretty impressive if you ask me, as I've said previously. Then we see cement, apples are also here, so heading 0808 with a positive change of some $10 million. And towards the end of this top 20 list, we see undenaturated ethyl alcohol. Copper is on the 19th spot, while fruit juices, so heading 2009, ends this list with a positive change of some $6.2 million and an overall export value for 2023 around $20.5 million. So guys, what does this list tells us? Well, first of all, we see that the fruit sector, who is present here with some 4 headings, is very important, even though, let's face it, in terms of cumulative export values is half, give or take, relative to the energy sector, which is including here just the electrical energy and petroleum oils. Then we see a couple of subclusters like beverages and plastics. This last one with some impressive figures in what concerns both the overall exports and compound annual growth rates, while I don't know, the rest of the chapters are represented by just one heading with relatively low export values, but still important, especially on a regional scale, so the exports towards Azerbaijan's neighboring countries. So guys, these were the largest absolute positive changes, and now I will take a look at the bottom ones and the largest change of roughly what, $3.2 billion happened in relation with heading 2709. So crude petroleum gas followed with a yearly contraction of $1.3 billion, while mineral or chemical nitrogenous fertilizers finished this top 3 with a contraction of some $127 million, which brought the overall export value for 2023 to some $83 million. And the list goes on with, I don't know, cotton, so heading 5201, Petroleum coke, cane or beet sugar is also present here with a yearly contraction of $15 million. While towards the end of the list, we see copper ores and concentrates. Automatic data processing machines follows, and the top 20 list ends with heading 2302, who had a contraction of $6 million, but still showing an impressive 31% compound annual growth rate for these last 5 years. And guys, speaking of compound annual growth rates, we see that on the trend line column, most of the maximum values were recorded in 2022 and 2023. The growth was huge, at least for the commodity related headings. So, of course, this increase helped the overall compound annual growth rates. But rest assured, guys, that if a black swan event doesn't happen, we will see a regression to pre-pandemic levels, especially for the commodity-related headings. And we can easily see this on the summary chart, as chapters 27 and 72 are the most vulnerable, even though for this last one, so chapter 72, the involved figures are much, much lower. So overall, as it was expected, commodity-related headings were hurt the most, with an overall cumulative contraction of $30 billion, if we consider only the headings in this top 20 list. And most probably, if we were to factor in the other headings, which are not in this list, the overall figure will be much, much higher. So, guys, these were the largest absolute negative changes, and now I will take a look and cover Azerbaijan's top 20 headings, who had the smallest variability for these last 5 years. And the smallest coefficient of variation was recorded in relation with heading 0802, so other nuts, fresh or dried, whether or not shelled, who had a coefficient of variation of 0.0501 and an overall export value for 2023 around $126 million. Sauce and preparations followed with a coefficient of variation of 0.0719, while gold, so heading 7108, finished the podium, let's say, with a coefficient of variation of 0.0797 and some $162 million worth of exports, again for 2023, which is the second largest amount in this top 20 list. And I don't know, then we see other vegetables, tomatoes, fresh or chilled, are also present with a coefficient of variation of 0.0927. What else do we see, guys? We have margarine, for example. Sacks and bags follows. Then we see unwrought lead. Potatoes is also here, so heading 0701. Then we see copper ores and concentrates with a coefficient of variation of 0.1355. And towards the end of this top 20, we have cane or beet sugar. Knives with cutting blades is on the 19th spot, while retraded or used pneumatic tires ends this list with a coefficient of variation of 0.1843 and some $149,000 worth of exports. So, guys, what does this list tells us? What intel can we gather from this data? Well, it is pretty clear that except for the gold chapter, we have two important clusters here, the vegetable and fruit one, who are present with 3 and 2 headings respectively. But what is more important is the cumulative export value of the headings. And for the vegetable chapter, we have some $197 million, while for the fruit one, we see almost, $319 million. And I think it is safe to say that they have a competitive advantage in these two particular sectors, not necessarily on a global scale, but rather regional in scope, with important exports towards neighboring countries. Otherwise, I can't see any other cluster emerging worth mentioning. So this pretty much condenses Azerbaijan's regional competitive advantage, a country which still needs to build and diversity its industrial base and creating clusters outside the scope of the petrochemical sector. So, guys, with this being said, that's it for today. Thank me by hitting those small vanity buttons below this video. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.